Hi, I'm George Felix. I work for KFC, and I'm the director for brand communications.
So congrats on the Effie for the return of Colonel Sanders.
Thank you.
It's quite the iconic return.
Yeah, we're excited. It's been a fun couple of years.
So for those people that are watching that were under a rock this entire time, tell us a little bit about what the campaign entailed.
Yeah, so honestly, the campaign was all about, for us, KFC kind of getting back to its roots. The brand had been through some tough times, and so we realized it was time for kind of a new brand positioning to get back to what the brand stood for when it was great. And so we worked with Wieden+Kennedy to really kind of position the brand back to when Colonel Sanders was running the brand, and when that brand was at its best, he was front and center. And so we really brought everything about the Colonel back, his values, the way he did things, then obviously in the advertising in a fun way.
What was the key insight driving all of that?
Honestly, it comes back to what Colonel Sanders stood for. So, he was a showman. He was like the ultimate chicken salesman, which is what most people remember. But he also stood for like unrelenting quality control. And so, for him, it was all about doing things the hard way and not taking any shortcuts. And so, for us, returning to our roots and what he stood for means much more than bringing it back in advertising, but it means really just re-kernelizing our whole brand. So everyone from the team members in the restaurants through the people that work at corporate headquarters.
Re-kernelizing, I like that.
Yeah, it's actually a word he used. We kind of borrowed it. We found it in the archives and some old articles when in the 70s he thought the brand had slipped a bit, and so he went on a re-kernelization kind of mission, and so we kind of borrowed that as what we've been coining our process here in the last couple of years.
So there's a lot of decisions in a campaign to relaunch something like that. Tell me about some of the critical ones you had to wrestle with.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. So first off, I think the biggest one was admitting that the brand needed to change course. So the Colonel passed away in 1980, and so basically ever since then, the brand had kind of lost its way a bit and moved away from all the things that had made it great in the past. And so really the first decision was, we need to have a new brand positioning, and that's where Wieden+Kennedy, our agency, came into play. And they really helped us find like the brand's core DNA, kind of find our soul again a bit. And so that's been our North Star through this whole process. So that was kind of the first piece. I think, when you think about the advertising campaign, obviously bringing the Colonel back is not easily done. He was a real person, and you have to do that in a certain way. And so we knew it was going to be polarizing, but we knew people would take notice, and we've been really excited with the reception we've gotten, and obviously we've made some decisions in terms of having different actors portray the Colonel along the way, but it's been a lot of fun, and it's been great to see people's reaction to the campaign.
So you have had a lot of different actors play the Colonel. Was that part of the original insight, or did they come along after?
Yeah, so first and foremost, it was bring the Colonel back. So we knew when we were at at our best, Colonel Sanders was everywhere, whether it was the packaging, the commercials, the restaurant. And so we knew the Colonel had to be back in the advertising. And so thinking about how to do that was tricky. One of the things we debated was whether or not do you have one person play the Colonel or multiple, and ultimately we decided it'd be best to no one person can take the place of Colonel Sanders, and so we thought it'd be fun to have different actors bring their own spin to the role, and that would keep things unexpected and fresh. And so it certainly played a huge role in how this campaign's evolved, but we're really excited with how it's turned out.
So KFC is bucking this trend of maintaining a consistent brand identity. If you think about the Colonel and the idea of switching the Colonel out, was there any risk or any pushback on that as that idea came forward?
Yeah, we think of it a little differently. So we know the power of iconic brand elements, and we're fortunate on this brand. It's like a marketer's dream. We've got as many as any brand I can think of. So between the red and white bucket, the Colonel himself, his like white suit, the black tie, like there's so many iconic elements that we actually found that even though the person that's playing the Colonel is different, just the simple fact of the Colonel's suit and the tie and the glasses and the beard, it doesn't matter who's there. It's like that's the Colonel right away, and people associate that with KFC. So as long as we're being smart about using those elements. It's finger licking good is our tagline, red and white, it's all over our commercials. And then the Colonel suit, even though the actor might be different, we found that those are enough to kind of keep the brand identifiable and immediately recognizable, even though the actor that's playing the Colonel is keeping things kind of unexpected and fresh.
So how did you pick the actors?
It's an interesting process. I'd say it's, we definitely don't have like a long, roadmap of this person, then this person. It really is, evolving the campaign. And so sometimes it's very much geared towards a particular product or initiative we have. Other times we're looking for a certain tone of voice to kind of evolve our campaign more. We definitely have lists and people that we think feel right, but like a good example of one where we went kind of in a different direction than we even thought was when we introduced the extra crispy Colonel with George Hamilton, and it just seemed perfect for what we were trying to communicate and a way to kind of continue to keep things unexpected. So it's hard to say. There's no equation for it. It's just really been a function of the campaign continuing to evolve.
And from my research, within weeks, you're going to have a chicken sandwich in space, right?
That's right. Yeah, the Zinger. So we launched the Zinger, which has actually been our most popular product for KFC globally. It's sold in over 100 countries, but it had never been sold here in the U.S. So we brought it here, and we thought, it wasn't just enough to bring it, to be world famous. The Colonel would want to do something bigger. So we're sending it to space with our current space Colonel, Rob Lowe, and so you can look for that going up into space in late June. So we're excited about it.
Was there anything about the campaign that surprised you along the way?
Yeah, there's been a lot of things that have been surprising. I guess the biggest one is probably just like there is this like love for this brand here in the U.S. and it'd been kind of hidden or dormant for a while, but when I travel and tell people what I do and where I work, it's great to hear their stories. A lot of them have, fun stories or fond memories growing up, and we see our job now as creating more memories for a new generation of people that are discovering KFC who, just might not have been familiar with the brand at this point.
So winning an Effie is about marketing effectiveness. So how do you define marketing effectiveness?
It's a good question. We have a saying or kind of a motto that our goal is to build sales overnight and brand over time. So it's kind of an overly simplistic way of looking at it, but for us, marketing isn't going to be effective if it's not achieving both of those goals. And so for us, as much as I might love a piece of creative, if it's not driving sales for the brand, then I can't really consider that terribly effective. On the other side of things, if we are making decisions that are just in the interest of short-term sales at the expense of building the larger brand, then that's not going to work for us either. So, for us, it's always kind of the tension and the balance of those two things. But if we do it right, we're going to keep driving the brand and growing the brand, but also turning this brand on to a younger generation of consumers that honestly just might not be as familiar with KFC, so that it's a brand that they feel like relates to them and they can trust and champion.
Well, thanks for sitting down today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.